Sylvia's mother, the celebrated Emmeline Stankhurst, will accompany on the pianoforte.
Folks, it's time for Shiny Side Out with David Dunger and Mecky. You're listening to Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. You don't need to expect us. We're already here. Take it away, guys.
Welcome to Shiny Side Out with
Dave
and Mecky, live from the Sydney studios in Australia. Jump into the chat room at freedomslips.com while we're on air, which is right now. You can listen from there. And follow us on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. Check out ShinySideOut.net for show archives, notes, and links we paste into the chat during the show. And with so many ways to listen to us, and others as well, Solaris, of course, it's difficult not to listen to us. If you live in Kentucky, it is FM WZZR 101.3. Get an app. You can get Revolution Radio, TalkStream Live, TuneIn.com, Radio Tuner, Speaker.com, iHeart, Live 365, Shiny Side Out. Yeah, we have an app, that's right. It's available now. At home on a Grace radio, digital tabletop radio, if you like, or driving around in a GM motor vehicle with the receiver-enabled radio. These are all revolutions in radio. Now, you can actually buy a CD of your favorite host for the 2013 season. Each CD costs $30. That's US dollars. Check out the info on the station's website. The number to call in if you are in the US of A is 347-688-2902, or via Skype, which is easier, just at Freedom Screen. One word, Freedom Screen. Solaris, thank you for another great show, and happy birthday to you, right? It is your birthday, and thank you so much for taking the time to produce a show on your birthday, on Easter. You're a trooper. Thank you.
Isn't she what? And wasn't Jim Nichols informative too?
Oh, yeah. Yes, he was.
She gets such good... Terrible segue. She gets such good guests, and I listened to, I think, almost the entire show, putting together the slideshow for today's our show. And I'm just forever loving it. Mecky, it sounds like an infomercial, but the quality.
That's my name.
That's my middle name. The quality of shows on Revolution Radio now are absolutely astounding, aren't they?
You know what's more astounding?
What's that?
I'll tell you what. Normally, in order to get talent and entertaining content, you have to pay people. But every host on Freedom Slips, Revolution Radio, is doing this for free. For free! Yeah, gratis, without remuneration. So I think that is amazing. So yes, it's amazing to have this much quality. It's even more amazing to have this much volunteering quality.
Yes.
I think.
You put it. I know you're right. To find this collection of people, and I was talking to Nighthawk the other day, and he's the station owner, by the way, everyone. And he says, "You know what, guys? I don't see you much anymore, because he's tried not to do the late nights. He's trying to get his, it takes it out of you. Let's put it that way. And we've seen other radio stations burn out because they just try too hard to do everything all the time. And he thanked us very much for being here. I think we've got outside. I think there's only one other show on Revolution Radio that has. I think it's a Mad Painters show. But other than that, we're next. We're the longest stint.
Really?
Yeah, and I think it's amazing. So thanks to Nighthawk. Happy birthday to Solaris, and you know what? If you like any of these hosts, you can get a CD. Do yourself a favor and get a CD of your favorite host or the favorite show that they're on. And,
Yes,
it's
definitely.
the 2013 season too, by the way, and you should really enjoy it.
Yes, and just on that, we may be the second longest running show, but I tell you what, we're not going to run out of ideas anytime soon, because this world of ours is a lot stranger than our school wisdom would have ever dreamt of, and there are more things between heaven and earth than we were ever taught. So I tell you, every day there's something else that pops up on the net, and the net is a fantastic research tool. I tell you what, of course. You have to be discerning. You can't believe everything. Yeah. Well, you can if you like, but you know, but the information that it avails you, you know, that you can actually partake in is astounding. I mean, for this show, had it been the olden days before the internet, I reckon we would have spent, Dave, what do you reckon, a couple of weeks in the library to get it all together.
And
whereas the internet,
yep, and
yeah.
of course we would have been filtered, because that's filtered information.
Yeah, you're right.
So
You're
we'd
correct.
really, really only be trumpeting the past agreements.
No, that's right. We'll bring you the show of agreement to the common consensus. This is the consensus show. No, it's not. It's the shiny side out. And after we're going to talk about a few things, we're going to bring you a close look at Easter, what it means, what it doesn't mean, and what you think it might mean, but doesn't. And then we are going to continue the werewolves. I understand. The known knowns and the unknown knowns. No, we're going to continue the lycanthrope theme next time. Mm-hmm. We just found it more appropriate to talk about Easter and probably maybe some things you don't know about Easter to bring to you and enlighten you a little. Because Easter in its entirety is a pagan festival. Oh no! Yes, unfortunately it is. Don't take my word for it. But in the meantime, though, Dave, listen, that Malaysian airline flight, still nothing, still not found. I mean, this is nuts. I mean, the black box by now is, I think, out of battery, right?
They got nothing. You're absolutely right. The first 30 days, while it was beeping, no one was anywhere near it. And there's something really peculiar that happens. I'm just going to go to our whiteboard. If you're not watching the live stream, you might be able to catch it afterwards. So
did you post it into the chat, sir?
I don't know that I can do that.
Okay. So, no, I mean the live stream address.
Oh, actually, yes, I did actually. Yep, I have
done
that already. So
Beautiful.
Let me just remove the screen region. There we go. Okay, so in the live stream, if you have the ocean surface, which if everyone's watching this, of course, and you have a ship, on the water. I'm just drawing a ship. There we go. What happens is at the bottom, there's a very unique thing that occurs with the sounding devices. There's a small, shallow. It's a layer of water that is near the top. You know, if it's very similar to, but not the same as, but it's not dissimilar to. If you've ever been swimming in a brown lake or a dam or a river of some kind, and the top 1 foot of water is extremely warm and everything else is freezing. Have you done that, Meki?
I have not.
Yeah. Well, that can get you into trouble, because if you stay on the top, like swimming freestyle, your body stays warm and it's fine. But if you decide to let your body dangle down into the depths, you can quickly lose sensation in your legs and then mobility in your legs. And if you're not a strong swimmer, that can do you in. So that emphasizes that warm layer. Now, that same very similar style of thickness of water, but it's not just, it's a maybe 30 meters all the way down to the 6 kilometer base that the Indian Ocean is, in some cases, for instance. The sound propagates. If I'm just going to draw what I'm going to represent as whether or not it's real or not, or however it got to the bottom of the ocean, whatever sound they said, and this is once again filtered, but they didn't agree that the ping sounds came from the flight recorder. They said
Yeah, you're right.
similar sounds to what could have been heard if similar could and if it were transponding and it was the right one. So they still have no idea. But what happens is sound will emanate out, and sound travels faster through water than it does through air. It's 1,000.
Correct.
It's
1,000
and
further,
feet
and
per
further.
second. Yeah, much further too. So 1,000 feet. So if the little boat that I've drawn up the top, on top of the water, is diagonally away from it, what occurs is it appears like this, and it'll only make sense if you're looking at the live stream. But it seems to curve up. Now, if you're a fisherman with a spear in a shallow river, and you're trying to spear, thanks. Is that? I could really get him annoyed and add.
Hey, Hovsey!
I can
Yes,
add
he
an
does
S
draw like a
into his
3-year-old
name.
Hovsey.
Well, you use a mouse, mate. I'm telling you, I haven't got a sketch pad, so. But thanks. At least someone's watching it. And,
Yeah, that's true.
And what happens is it bends. It bends like the light from the fish up to your eyes. That happens at the surface, but what happens at this 30-meter blanket on top of the ocean, underwater, does exactly the same thing, and it makes it almost impossible to find it. You have to have 3 vessels at the same time hearing the same ping, and then you can triangulate it. Otherwise,
That's called exactly triangulation.
it is triangulation. There are problems in life that can't be solved with triangles.
Name one.
Yeah, you're right. It's all holes. So that's where we're at with this. Now, I was reading this week. What's come out is that the co-pilot, his cell phone was registered above Penang. Now, I mentioned a couple of weeks ago that flight MH370 had flown over. If it did, in fact, do what they said it did, which was hang a 120-degree left-hand turn and then fly back over the peninsula or the island. If it did that on its track, it had to fly over 2 airports. Now, airport traffic is very particular about what air traffic is in, around, or above. Yeah, whether it's taxiing on the tarmac, about to take off, in the air currently, or even above the ceiling. They want to know exactly what's going on. Now, if they had received a return from the radar being bounced off that aircraft, which they would have, but it didn't have an ID, they would have been all over that like a shot. Doesn't matter what time it is. They've got people doing this 24/7, and even the military ones. So it had to fly over 2 airports, and just right near Penang, when it was leaving the island coast on the western side, the co-pilot's phone connected to a cell tower. It's what the news is they're telling us now. Now, that doesn't match up with the 2 fishermen or the oil rig guy on holidays or the Maldives witnesses, which they've dismissed, saying, "Oh, that can't be possible." The plane, all of those witnesses say they saw lights, weird lights. One guy even said there was flames around this light flying in the sky. Flames. He said it went out, though. What? He didn't see a fuselage. One guy said the plane was so low he could see the doors. So that was the Maldives guy. And you know what? I've been watching so many other people's perspectives on this, and one that I like a lot, and I want to repeat it. And if you're anyone but Carson, you're stealing my bit. He said, that's my Simpsons quote for the day. He said, this is what he said. Johnny Carson is stealing my bit. I want a bigger lolly. He said, this is really funny. He said that Diego Garcia was more than likely the location that it landed.
Mm-hmm.
Went into a, basically a Faraday cage, and they dismantled the flight recorder. Told everyone to go and search down in the deep southern Indian Ocean, way past the flight distance of the aircraft, of course, and just plopped it overboard, and then took their boat back to Diego Garcia, or just plopped it out of a plane. Who knows, right? With all of the stuff, all of the flight traffic that would have been over that area looking for something, they could have easily excused it. And what became of the passengers? Well, this fellow believes that I would have liked to have had him on, but he's got his own YouTube channel. He said it's more than likely that whoever it was took control of the aircraft, landed it, and whether or not those 20 Freescale employees are still alive or not, it appears as though it would have proved to be a successful cloak of the aircraft, and that technology is now utilized. Right? We know the patents changed after the flight left. There was a patent submission, and that submission, the resubmission or whatever it was, meant that if those people had in fact passed away, the owner of that IP would then go to someone else.
Yeah.
And when you're talking about IP, you put a lot of motive. It's got a lot of collateral, and it weighs that side of the argument. And one thing I've always talked about was just how important that cargo was. Not the people, not the plane, who cares, right? But whatever it was that was on board. So for us, and that style of story that I've just read out is more than likely an IP cargo. I don't think the people are really that involved in it. And they still talk about the jump seat, which is the seat in the cockpit, which is usually vacant. But if you're a pilot, a flyboy, and you want to go home, you can go to any airport and just, if you're a commercial pilot, and just go, look, I want to go back home again. They go, yeah, we got a seat for you, and they pop you in the jump seat. So there could have been a third person in that cockpit. We don't know, and they're not on the flight list.
That's important fact. Yes, they don't get registered because they were considered cleared, like the crew.
Mm-hmm.
Now, but see, Dave, this is all true, and and the key thing though is this, right? There may be motivations around this and that and the other. We still don't know what happened. I mean, let's forget about everything else for a second here. We don't know what happened to that flight. We don't know why it turned, how it turned, who turned it around, who flew it wherever it went to. Okay, we don't know any of that information because guess what? That's in the black box, which we now have no hope of ever finding because the battery's gone. So it's a mystery, and it's a disturbing mystery because it was a normal commercial flight. It could happen to any of us, guys. This wasn't a special flight. It didn't fly over some kind of war zone. There weren't any terrorists on board that we know of. There wasn't no high-powered political figures that are worth assassinating. None of that. But like Dave has pointed out quite correctly, the elite. In fact, this is not the elite. These are the people that like to be the elite. They will stop at nothing.
They're bickering to that legs rung up.
Correct. They will stop at nothing to get what they want, to get what they think they deserve. And 100 lives, 2,000 lives, 10,000 lives. Yeah, you know what? That's all collateral damage. We'll just go with that because it doesn't affect them. There's a quote from a very popular American TV series right now, as The Walking Dead. You're probably all familiar with it. Yep. And the Herschel, who was one of the I guess the good guys, and elder gentleman, spoke to the governor and said, how can you do this? They were under duress. The governor had caught them. How can you do this? You said you were family. You were a family man once yourself. You had a daughter. You lost her. So how can you do this and potentially kill my 2 daughters? And then the governor thought for a while and looked at Herschel and said, well, they're not mine. And that is exactly the mindset that these people have we're not theirs. We're not part of what they do. We're not in any way related to them or have any dealings with them. We're just foot soldiers in an age-long battle between well, not even between good and evil, guys. Okay, it's not even that simple. This is so confused and confabulated now that I think even the participants will have a hard time figuring out if their agenda is moral or not. So, but just having said that, though, long story short, we do not know what happened, and until we know what happened, we have no way of arming ourselves against it. That's really the thing I'm driving at here. That because information is power, and here we have zero, Dave. I mean, there's just nothing known as to what happened. We know the plane is gone. How?
Yep. And you know what? That's been repeated in the news all over the place. That all we know is one fact: it disappeared off the radar, and that's it. They keep telling us that they know all this other stuff, and yet they don't tell us how they know it, which doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
I like the cloak theory. That's pretty cool.
Chindolo, right?
It seems to tick a whole bunch of boxes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't want to go down this path and get myself all twisted up into something that has no effect. But do you know what? If there was another plane that suddenly vanished in the same circumstances within, I think it's always already been 6 weeks, hasn't it? Within the 2-month period. So if another plane went, what would happen to the aviation industry? Think about it.
Well, it would go into a sharp nosedive, my friend. That's what would.
Mind the pun.
Because the thing is this is now the safest form of travel. It's statistically speaking, this is true. If you do the math, it is the safest way to travel by far. It's safer than walking, guys. Okay, but if more of this happens, Dave, if more of this happens, where things just it's the third plane this week that disappeared. Just chalk it up to bad luck. Sure,
bad luck.
The pilot was Irish. Oh well, there you go. I don't know. Sorry about the Irish. Look,
but I have to say, this is important. Why can't it have been a Bermuda Triangle-ish kind of experience? Why did it have to be all these other things? And that's because, for the most part, people don't believe in the Bermuda Triangle. And we have to do a show on it for sure, right? And the Red Triangle and all the missing planes.
No, don't worry. That'll happen. Don't worry.
That's definitely on our list.
Oh yeah.
But because they neglect, to publicly announce it as, but this is what gets me. It's still the Flight MH370 mystery. It's still mysterious. They don't know anything about it, and I think that's what that has so much attraction to this whole.
I'm waiting for a whole raft of movies to be made around this. By the way. I mean, how Hollywood. This is a great story. Hollywood. Wait a couple of years, until it's not too soon anymore. Oh, is it too soon? No, not yet. Okay, boom, off you go. Right.
Yeah.
Look. Absolutely. This is astounding stuff. Now, I don't want to cut us short, but I do want to say one thing that is a little sad. Mike Rupert.
Yes.
You might know Mike Rupert out of the wilderness. Is no longer with us. He chose to vacate his spot in this place,
Vessel.
and it shocks me to find out that so many have left us. Phil Coppens, Lloyd Pye, now Mike Rupert. It's this past 6 months, or past year, if you will, has been quite I guess. Hard on the research community,
Yeah, your quote said it all. They're dropping like flies.
Yeah, I know.
That got my attention.
Mm.
The UFO people who have been standouts, trying to like the Walmart UFO lady, she's gone. The other one who was also a standout, and pardon me, but I do forget her name. I'm just quickly stalling while I click on my own link to have a look. It's sad. It really is sad. All these people who just aren't with us anymore. That was Elaine Douglas as well. Think about Lloyd Pye
okay.
as well,
Yep.
you know.
Yep.
All these people. And you know what? Who's going to replace them? I just hope that the people, you know, they step up. I hope they step up and take their places.
Look, I think that's a fair question, and the answer is in part you and I should, people like us. We've now gone into the field, hurrah, and done some research there. And on a better note, or on a lighter note, or maybe happier note, I'm editing, and so is Dave. We're editing the video of our expedition into the wilderness. To bring you some astonishing, or astounding maybe is the right word, Aboriginal carvings. We had some experts with us from Forgotten Origins, who will also receive, of course, the footage in their mail, and it's going to be available on YouTube for free, naturally. So it was really quite a great expedition we had, a bit of a hit and miss. I will add some four-wheel drive footage into it so you understand what I mean. But yeah, so people like ourselves, Dave, we should step into the breach, into the void, and take up the banner. And even though we have a fairly active role here on radio, we are also now required to maybe become more actively involved in the field, as it were. If anybody's out there that wants to sponsor us, yes, please. So, that would be good.
The hieroglyphs near where I am are on my list, and also is Walkabout Park to go and have a look at that.
Yep.
But we'd love to be able to go to Black Hill and the Gympie Pyramid.
That Black Hill, the Black Hill is like that. I'm going to tempt fate there. I'm going to tie a rope around myself, and Dave will be standing outside, and I'll be walking into the Black Hill.
Awesome.
You will see the footage, and if there's no rope with the end of me, then
if I just
Dave
pull
will be
back,
running.
if the rope suddenly goes slack, and it's been cut, well then I'll at least get lots of hits on YouTube.
That's right. It'll be Shiny Side Out with Dave. Period.
and Hovesy.
Hovesy, yeah. Why not?
Kidding.
Not? Bring the Hovesy in. Right. So you can see there's a lot of stuff that happened, a lot of things that we're going to do that you will hopefully enjoy. We're having the live stream up now, without further ado, I say, unless sir, you've got some other astounding news.
I don't recall there being anything else outside of something really cool. Thanks for everyone who's currently subscribed to our YouTube channel.
Yes.
But people have been sharing some of our videos, and one of our videos went complete. It's viral for us, but it's gained more now than 6,000 plus views.
Oh, that's awesome! Awesome.
And a lot of South American, a lot of people from South America and Britain.
Actually, there's a show there as well, specifically around. Now, while I want to bring that specific guest on again, if we can, that would be awesome. That'd be the third time, really, then, wouldn't it, with the Shiny Side Out?
Yeah.
I want to have a show around the tunnels, the South American tunnels that go for hundreds of miles, the cave systems, because there's a lot of stories coming over there, like books written on gold pages. Strange caves which have all kinds of technology. Again, massive treasure, if you will. Also, so we definitely will spend maybe a cycle on the underground. We have dealt with underground before, but not specifically with the South American cave systems and tunnels.
Meki, there was a pastor that lived there and died there, by the way, and he was, bringing the good word of the Lord to all the local people. Probably fell on deaf ears, but he was a very lovely guy and personable. And everyone, especially the children were approaching him with gifts that they said that they'd found in caves. And inside those caves, he was able to accumulate quite a large pile of these things. And when he died, they all went missing.
Right.
And he was holding on to some stuff there that was truly extraordinary. Now, I believe it might be something to do with an announcement coming up at the end of this year, but I just don't know.
Really?
I'm only speculating. But
okay.
yeah, we should get we should get him back on and talk about those. And some of those caves were smooth walled.
Absolutely, and look, this is really, look, again, this is stuff that people ask about physical evidence all the time, right, Dave? And I know I harp on about it, right? But there are things, and this is certainly one of those where you can, you purchase yourself a plane ticket if you don't live in South America somewhere, or even if you were living there. Get a plane ticket, get yourself on a plane, on a bus, and I know some of the places are very hazardous to get to. Not easy, and I've seen some of the roads. I tell you, they go like 2,000 meters down. There's nothing between you and the hard rock. But nonetheless, I mean, people do go there, and it is possible to get there and have a look yourself. If you are an armchair critic or skeptic, that's cool. But if you want to get some credibility, maybe go out there and take a look at these mysteries yourself. And I mean, we have spoken to people that have been there. Now, I can't for myself say that I've been there, but I've spoken to people that are there. And in fact that are there right now, and Dave interviewed people that are there right now, and that's why I guess why there's such an interest in that particular YouTube clip that we have.
Yeah, completely. He's actually in Egypt right now.
Right. Oh, is he?
Yeah.
Oh, well, he gets around, doesn't he?
Yeah. So he's there, interested in what's underneath the Sphinx.
Yeah, but we spoke to the guys from Forgotten Origin about this as well.
Yep.
And I understand that we just can't get access there. I mean, or can we? Or can someone?
Who knows? I think it's
Right.
luck and money.
Right. Okay. Not fair point. I guess it is more money than luck, really. So it's,
So Mickey, a nice little segue. Did you partake in any lovely sugary milk-based cocoa products?
No, I did not. My wife, though, did, and my nephews. My daughter is too young quite yet. So, what Dave is referring to is here the tradition of Easter eggs and bunnies, cast, as it were, in chocolate and other candied materials. But I'm sure you have, Dave, right?
Oh, boy, yes. And it's not the reason why I'm not feeling very well, everyone. I just, that's for another reason.
Yeah. Dave is a little under the weather, so
under the weather.
please bear with us, and you probably hear my voice a bit more than his.
Mm-hmm.
If that's a bad thing, then you should turn off now. If it's not, then you can stick with us. But thanks for being a trooper, Dave. You can't have the shiny side out without Dave or Mackie. I mean, you can, but it's not quite the same.
Yeah, that's what people say too. They say, we miss Mickey when you're traveling, and they say, I miss Mickey. And you see it in the chat room. The chat rooms goes crazy during our shows, by the way, everyone. So if you're watching this on YouTube, crazy, it's good.
Yes, and we do try to take note of the chat room at the same time, guys. So we don't ignore, and because that's rude. I think if you make the effort to be in the chat room and you have something to say, I think it is our responsibility as hosts to hear your voices, or make your voices heard, as it were.
Mickey, I've got 6 windows open. One of them has 5 websites on it. I've got the streaming software. I've got the show notes. I've got Skype. I've got everything going on. And
beautiful.
We try and keep balance with what we're talking about. Certainly, where it's handy, if Mickey's talking, I can jump in the chat room. So and likewise. Fantastic.
Now, guys, the show today, being timely as we always are, is about Easter, the roots of Easter, the meaning of Easter, and what it doesn't mean as well. And there may be some surprises here for you. If you are of the sensitive kind, then maybe you don't want to hear it. If you get easily offended by the truth, then you should turn off now. Because I'm not making this up. Some of it is speculation, based not my speculation though, speculation of scholars. Other things are plainly true. I mean, you're welcome to find the truth for yourself. But let's talk about Easter, right? Now, Easter, by and large, is a pagan festival. Okay, and it's not really about Jesus. Ooh, no, I said it. So what is it about then, right? Well, we are a secular culture essentially, right? And we're celebrating the spring equinox. Okay, and while Christians at large celebrate the resurrection, and that's fair enough. It's not really a celebration of the spring equinox, but I'll get to that. Now, the early Christians, though, were quite pragmatic people, right? You have to understand they had been persecuted for hundreds of years by the Romans specifically. Burnt, fed to the lions, this and that. So when the martyrs went out there, when the apostles went out to win converts over and make Christianity a dominant force, as it were, they had to contend with existing pagan rituals, pagan festivals, and pagan culture. Now, if you want to convert someone to Christianity, and you say to them, you know what, you can no longer celebrate the winter solstice, and you can no longer celebrate your spring festivals of fertility, they'd go, yeah, really? Well, you be a Christian on your own then. Thank you very much.
That's true.
So, right? So it is much easier, or it was much easier for the early Christians to simply incorporate those festivals, and I'm talking about Christmas and Easter specifically here, into the Christian diet of festivals. And that's pretty much what happened with Easter. Okay, the general symbolic story of the death of the sun on a cross, which is the constellation of the Southern Cross, if you will, and his rebirth, overcoming the powers of darkness and so forth, was actually a well-known story in the ancient world. There were plenty of parallel and in fact rival resurrected saviors as well. If you've seen Zeitgeist, the movie, the first one in fact, then you might know this. Not all of the material in Zeitgeist is factual, but a large portion of it is. For example, the Sumerian goddess Inanna, or Ishtar, or Istar, was hung naked on a stake and was subsequently resurrected and ascended from the underworld. Now, there's more of that later. I'll give you some more detail around that. One of the oldest resurrection myths is the Egyptian Horus. He was born on December 25th. What? Horus and his damaged eye became symbols of life and rebirth. Mithras, for example, was born on what we now call Christmas Day, and his followers celebrated the spring equinox, or Easter. Even as late as the 4th century AD, the Sol Invictus, which was associated with Mithras, was the last pagan cult the church had to overcome. So quite early, but fairly deep into the Christian history there already. Dionysus, another one, was a divine child resurrected by his grandmother. Dionysus also brought his mum Semele back to life. In an ironic twist, you might say, the Sibyl cult flourished on today's Vatican Hill in Italy. Sibyl's lover Attis was born of a virgin, died, and was reborn annually.
Wow.
So, yeah, look, all of this, right? Now, the Spring Festival began as a day of blood on Black Friday, rising to a crescendo after 3 days in rejoicing over the resurrection. There was violent conflict on Vatican Hill in the early days of Christianity between the Jesus worshippers and pagans who quarreled over whose God was the true and who was the imitation. Okay? Because, again, very many parallels. Now, what's interesting, though, is that in the ancient world, wherever you had popular resurrected gods or god myths, Christianity found a lot of converts. Because it was a concept that people were already familiar with. The people already could accept a resurrected God. You see? So it wasn't that much of a leap for people to accept Christianity. Right. So, of course, eventually Christianity came to accommodate the pagan spring festival, which we know now as Easter. Now, there is no celebration of Easter in the New Testament. Okay? Early church fathers, according to some documentation, did celebrate it. And today many churches are offering sunrise services. Sunrise services at Easter. Guys, sunrise services, that's obviously pagan. Okay? It's the solar pagan celebration. Okay, now, the date of Easter is not fixed, but instead it is governed by the phases of the moon. Another quite pagan attribute of Easter. So that's a little overview of Easter. Of course, we've got much more detailed information for you. Easter, Old English Eostre, also known as Pascha. Latin Pascha, Greek Pascha, and the latter two are derived from the Hebrew Pessah, or Resurrection Day. And you might know that as Passover Festival. Okay, it's a festival and holiday celebrating the resurrection of Jesus Christ from the dead, described in the New Testament as having occurred 3 days after his crucifixion at Calvary. Calvary is where he was crucified. Okay, but bear in mind, okay, it is bearing a lot of similarity to the Passover fest as well. In fact, it is calculated along the lines of the Passover fest. It is the culmination of the Passion of Christ, preceded by Lent. I'm going to talk about Lent as well. A 40-day period of fasting, prayer, and penance. The last week of Lent is called Holy Week, and it contains the days of the Easter Triduum, including Maundy Thursday, Maundy, also known as Holy Thursday, commemorating the Last Supper, because obviously the Last Supper happened just before the Friday when he was crucified, and it's preceding foot washing, as well as Good Friday, commemorating the crucifixion and death of Jesus the Christ. Easter is followed by a 50-day period called Eastertide, or the Easter season ending with Pentecost Sunday. It's a movable feast, which means it is not fixed to a specific calendar date in our civil calendar. Okay, it moves around, and you might have noticed that. Interestingly, it was the first Council of Nicaea, and I've spoken about that council a lot in the past, in the year 325, which established the date of Easter as the first Sunday after the full moon following the March equinox, which is the Passover full moon. Okay? Now, so the date of Easter varies quite a bit, and it got more complicated when we switched from the Julian to the Gregorian calendar, and that also gives you an idea as to why the Orthodox Christians celebrate it at a different time as well. Okay? Easter is linked to the Jewish Passover festival by much of its symbolism as well as position in the calendar. What does Passover mean? Well, the Passover festival commemorates the passing over of having your firstborn slaughtered when the plagues were unleashed upon Egypt. Remember, Moses went to the Pharaoh and said, "Let my people go," and Pharaoh goes, "No, I'm not letting you go. Are you crazy?" And so he didn't, and the plagues were unleashed upon Egypt, the most terrible of which was the plague of having every firstborn, or I think not son, I think it was child, every firstborn child slaughtered or killed. Except, of course, for those that had marked their doors in a specific way, so they were passed over. That's the Passover festival. Now think about that. What God, and I know I'm going to make a lot of enemies here, needs a sign on the door to know that there are Jews inside that you should not kill, right? Which God is there? I don't know. Now, okay, so that's a whole different thing. That's a whole different show. In fact, okay, that's a cycle of shows which we're going to touch in the future with a very long stick.
Let's just wear our religion on our arm. Why not? Yep.
Let's do that. Okay, look, Easter customs vary across the Christian world and include sunrise services, as I mentioned, exclaiming the paschal greeting, clipping the church, and decorating Easter eggs. Apparently, a symbol of the empty tomb. Really? Okay, then. I'll go with that. Additional customs...
All they had was eggs.
Yeah, so it must be the tomb. Additional customs that have become associated with Easter and are observed both by Christians and some non-Christians include egg hunting, the Easter bunny, and Easter parades. There are also, various traditional Easter foods across the world. And something I learned today, Dave, not today, sorry, when I was putting the show notes together, as you saw, there's such a thing as an Easter ham. An Easter ham.
Wow.
I had no idea there was an Easter ham. Right, so you learn something new every day.
I don't think that's typically Jewish food, though.
No, not so today. That's not so much. What? Now, the etymology of the term Easter is fascinating. Okay, the modern English term Easter, cognate, meaning it's similar sounding with the modern German Ostern, developed from the Old English word Easter or Eostre. This is generally held to have originally referred to the name of an Anglo-Saxon goddess, Eostre, a form of the widely attested Indo-European dawn goddess. Oh. In Greek and Latin, interesting, right? The Christian celebration was and is called Pascha. Words derived through Aramaic from the Hebrew term Pesach, known in English as Passover. which originally denoted the Jewish festival commemorating the story of the Exodus. Well, not entirely true. It's commemorating the fact that their firstborns weren't slaughtered. Okay, right. Already in the 50s of the first century, so like in the 50s, the very first 50s, in fact, Paul, writing from Ephesus to the Christians in Corinth, you might, the Corinthians in the New Testament. Well, I'll let you read your Bible. Applied the term to Christ, and it is unlikely that the Ephesian and Corinthian Christians were the first to hear Exodus 12 interpreted as speaking about the death of Jesus, not just about the Jewish Passover ritual. In most non-English speaking countries, the feast is known by names derived from Greek and Latin Pascha. So Easter and Ostern for Germans is unusual. For most other cultures, or language groups like the Romantic languages and Eastern European languages and so forth, it is in fact derived from the word Passover. Based on the similarity of the names, this is my editorial here, some connect Eostre with Ishtar. Okay, now this is a linguistic similarity. Eostre, Ishtar, the Babylonian and Assyrian goddess of love and fertility. But there's no solid evidence for this. Okay, it's just potentially a linguistic link there. Just my little editorial. So then, this is actually amusing. I'm gonna share this with you. Where did Easter come from? And this is the Ishtar connection, the Ishtar, not Easter, Ishtar, the goddess. Spring is in the air, flowers and bunnies decorate the home, father helps the children paint beautiful designs on eggs dyed in various colors. These eggs, which will later be hidden and searched for, are placed into lovely seasonal baskets. The wonderful aroma of the hot cross buns mother is baking in the oven wafts through the house. 40 days of abstaining from special foods will finally end the next day. The whole family picks out their Sunday best to wear to the next morning's sunrise worship service to celebrate the Savior's resurrection and the renewal of life. Everyone looks forward to a succulent ham with all the trimmings. Like I said, the Easter ham, right? It will be a thrilling day. After all, it is one of the most important religious holidays of the year. Easter, right? Dave?
Yeah.
No! It is
right.
not. It is not. I played a trick on you. No. It is a description of an ancient Babylonian family. 2,000 years before Christ, 4,000 years before the present day, roughly. Honoring the resurrection of their god, Tammuz, who was brought back from the underworld by his mother/wife. Yeah, that's what they did in those days. Ishtar, after whom the festival was named. Now, Ishtar, goddess of romance, procreation, and war in ancient Babylon, was also worshipped as the Sumerian goddess Inanna. And like I said, some linguists and historians make a link to Eostre, okay, the Anglo-Saxon goddess. One of the great goddesses, or mother goddesses, the stories of her descent to the underworld and the resurrection that follows are contained in the oldest writings that have ever been discovered. The Babylonian creation myth Enuma Elish and the story of Gilgamesh. We've spoken about Gilgamesh and the epic that was dedicated to him in connection with the immortals, if you recall. Scholars believed that they were based on the oral mythology of the region and were recorded about 2100 before the Common Era or 2100 before Christ. Now, Dave, once again, it is important to understand the holistic nature of the world we live in, right? We say this a lot, but a lot of the things we talk about and touch on, you will have heard before. There are very few people or characters we have not mentioned to you. Okay, so we've touched on a lot of stuff, but you have to understand it's all connected. You cannot just take a piece of information and look at it on its own. Not possible, right?
True.
So that's really the crux and the key to listening to the Shiny Side Out. In the end, it is all connected, and it is really very useful to understand the entire context. Now, go on.
I was just going to say, the Ishtar, goddess of romance, yeah? It goes back to the Sumerians. Once again,
Yep.
almost every one of our shows mentions Sumer and the Sumerians in some way, shape, or form. Like it's,
I know, right?
and thinking about just how long ago they existed on the planet, way before all the other ones. And you can see the replacements of a god and how easy it was to transition between one religion and another because they celebrated the same days. You know, that's something extraordinary. What I like is I was just talking to Steve, another host on Revolution Radio, offline while Mickey was talking just then, and he said fertility to do with the eggs. That's why we use eggs and bunnies, and I said, well, it is correct that there's an association there, but it's not the origin. And it comes up a bit later, doesn't it, Mickey, about Germans?
Yes.
Yes. So I wanted him to hold out for that. I said we brushed over it, but we're going to get to it just a bit later on in the show. And it's surprising that there is this transference of roles between deities and religions, and that it goes back so far. Yeah, we as we know about Santa Claus, you know, the guy in the red suit was a Coca-Cola creation of the image that we see, but we've gone down that road, you know.
Yes.
And we've talked about that one, but this is not dissimilar to that.
No, look, and again, the key thing is not to look at any of this in isolation. You're 100% correct.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's a theme here, guys. There's a theme, which is interconnectedness. Now, sorry, to get back to where we were, the most famous of those myths of Ishtar tells of her descent into the realm of the dead to rescue her young lover Tammuz, a vegetation god forced to live half of the year in the underworld, which, by the way, is an elegant way to explain winter. Ishtar approached the gates of the underworld, which was ruled by her twin sister, Eresh Kigel, the goddess of death and infertility. Again, polar opposites. Very interesting. It's the duality, again, we find in ancient religions, in Gnostic teachings, not quite in Christian religion, though. And she was refused admission. Similar to the Greek myths of Demeter and Persephone that came later, during Ishtar's absence, the earth grew barren, since all acts of procreation ceased while she was away. Now, this may very well be the memory of some kind of prolonged famine or some such. Ishtar screamed and went on and so forth, you know, and blah, blah, blah. And eventually, she was allowed to enter and plead her case with her twin. Needless to say, she did get in, and the guards, though following standard protocol, refused to let her pass through the first gate unless she removed her crown. And each subsequent gate, she had to remove a piece of clothing or jewelry, so that finally she was naked. At the seventh and last gate, the seventh, once again the number 7 gate, you know, she was humbled and naked. In one version, she was held captive and died, but was brought back to life. Remember, she was crucified and hung upside down. When she was brought back to life when her servant sprinkled her with the water of life. The water of life, once again, that reference to potentially the spring of eternal life. In the more widely known version of the myth, Ishtar's request was granted, and she regained all of her attire and possessions as she slowly re-emerged through the gates of darkness. That's the Hollywood version.
It sounds like going through customs.
Right? Yeah, just as painful. Upon her return, Tammuz and the earth returned to life. Annual celebrations of this day of joy were held each year around the time of the vernal equinox. These celebrations became the forerunners of the Ostara festivals that welcomed Easter and the arrival of spring. Right. As Ishtar was actually, in my opinion, probably pronounced Istar in most Semitic dialects, it could be said that the event portrayed here is in a sense Easter, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, so Easter. Of course, the occasion could easily have been a Phrygian family honoring Attis and Cybele, or perhaps a Phoenician family worshipping Adonis and Astarte. I'm referring to the description I tricked Dave earlier with, that in his mind may have described Easter. Of course, it didn't. Right. I didn't really trick him. You know, no. It's just radio magic. And also fitting the description well would be a heretic Israelite family honoring the Kenite Baal and Ashtoreth. Or this depiction could just as easily represent any number of other pagan fertility celebrations of death and resurrection, including the modern Easter celebration as it has come to us through the Anglo-Saxon fertility rites of the goddess Eostre or Ostara. These are all the same festivals, separated only by time and culture. Right? This is important. So, if you were to travel back in time some 4,000 years, you could still partake in Easter egg hunts. You wouldn't have any chocolate, in Europe because there wasn't any, but there'd be some kind of ham, Easter ham waiting for you, okay? All good. Now, the vast majority, apparently, of ecclesiastical and secular historians agree that the name of Easter and the traditions surrounding it are deeply rooted in pagan religion. Since Bede the Venerable, De Ratione Temporum 1.5, the origin of the term for the feast of Christ's resurrection has been popularly considered to be from the Anglo-Saxon Easter, a goddess of spring, the old High German plural for dawn, Eastoran, whence has come the German Ostern and our English Easter. This comes from the New Catholic Encyclopedia 1967, volume 5, page 6. We only have a little bit of time left in this segment of the show. I can give you a couple more quotes that will tell you about what the church thinks about Easter. The fact that vernal festivals were generally among pagan peoples, or celebrated among pagan peoples, no doubt had much to do with the form assumed by the Eastern festival in the Christian churches. The English term Easter is of pagan origin, and that's from Albert Henry Newman, a Manual of Church History, page 299. Another one is, on this greatest of Christian festivals, several survivals occur of ancient heathen ceremonies. To begin with, the name itself is not Christian but pagan. Ostara was the Anglo-Saxon goddess of spring. That's Ethel L. Erlin, Festival, Holidays and Saints. Page 73. Easter. The name Easter comes to us from Ostara, or Estra, the Anglo-Saxon goddess of spring, for whom a spring festival was held annually. As it is from this pagan festival that some of our Easter customs have come. That's Hazeltine, page 53. In Babylonia, the goddess of spring was called Ishtar or Istar. She was identified with the planet Venus, which because it rises before the sun or sets after it, appears to love the light. Dawn, right? Mm-hmm. Hello. This means Venus loves the sun god, right? In Phoenicia, she became Astarte. In Greece, Eostre, related to the Greek word Eos, which means dawn. And in Germany, Ostara, and hence, Ostern. Also, in German, Ost means east, which is, of course, the direction of the dawn.
Yes.
Where the sun rises, right? Well, so many connections. It just makes your mind spin. And that's from Engelhardt, page 4. The historian Will Durant, in his work The Story of Civilization, page 235, 244, and 245, writes, Istar, Astarte to the Greeks, Ashtoreth to the Jews, interests us not only as analog of the Egyptian Isis and prototype of the Grecian Aphrodite and the Roman Venus, but as the formal beneficiary of one of the strangest of Babylonian customs, known to us chiefly from a famous page in Herodotus. Every native woman is obliged, this is quoting from Herodotus now, once in her life to sit in the temple of Venus, Easter, and have intercourse with some stranger. Yes, there you go. That's a bit odd, isn't it? That's what she was famous for.
Well, they're going to be famous for something, I suspect.
When in Rome, right? Now,
yeah. What happens in Rome stays in Rome.
What happens in Rome stays in Rome. After the break, we'll talk about the origin of Lent, guys. So the music should be with us any moment, so please don't go away. And do remember, this is Listener Funded Radio, right, Dave?
Yeah, that's absolutely correct. And what you want to do, while the break is happening, while you're listening to the commercial for the other shows on this network, please do jump in the chat room and make a donation on the website, freedomslips.com. Get in there. And after you've made your donation, please get to your smart devices store and download the Shiny Side Out application. You won't be disappointed. Awesome. We'll see you on the other side of the break. Make those donations.
Radio at freedomslips.com, and we'll be right back after this message.
This is Thomas, a.k.a. a Mad Painter. I'd like you to join me Monday nights, 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for Open Canvas. Don't forget to bring an open mind.
Yes, folks, that's right. Bring an open mind to an open canvas. Again, that is Monday nights, 10 p.m. Eastern. UFOs to government corruption. This is Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. You don't need to expect us. We're already here.
There is no denying the world is awakening. We see it in the global uprisings and demonstrations of the people around the planet and the new way of thinking and living that is arising naturally within each one of us and our communities. I have been a major player in this global shift and movement for over 20 years and have helped tens of thousands of people around the world change their lives and find their voice in order to help create the paradigm change we so desperately need. Join me here at Revolution Radio on the Just Bernard Show every Tuesday at noon Eastern Time for 2 hours of powerful interviews and discussion with some of the most influential visionaries of consciousness, alternative media, and suppressed knowledge. We promise to reveal the real matrix and empower your human experience.
Is your data safe? Do you have the necessary information to assist you in confidently living through just about any survival situation? Is survival and gardening, off-grid living, medical knowledge, or even natural or man-made EMPs on your list of personal concerns? Do you have your documents and your personal information in a safe place in your hands where you know where it is? Well, check out our preloaded EMP-proof thumb drive. Over 3 gigs of survival documents and how-tos, plus the USDA offline food preservation website, and much, much more, including a surprise bonus we just can't tell you about here. With plenty of room left over to store your most important documents. Imagine if a megavirus or a computer failure took out your bank, or all the banks for that matter. Are your banking records safe in your hands? So when they get things fixed and repaired, you can say, hey, look, this is what I had. You have it. I want it back. Is your personal data safe? Family records, addresses, phone numbers? Well, squeeze on over to freedomslips.com. Yes, that's www.freedomslips.com. Click the banner on the homepage for the EMP-proof bullet drive to get the full scoop of everything that we offer. So, folks, keep your data safe for your peace of mind. Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. You don't need to expect us. We're already here. Thank you for tuning in to Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. If you plan to call in and speak with one of our hosts, please turn down your radio and separate yourself from any background noise and wait for the area code to be called on before you speak. And don't forget, Revolution Radio freedomslips.com is listener supported. So stop by the homepage, freedomslips.com, visit the site support area to help support the host you're listening to's airtime. Thank you. Revolution Radio freedomslips.com, where the truth never sleeps. Revolution Radio. You're listening to Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, 100% listener supported radio, and now we return you to your host.
You're back with David Mackey's Shiny Side Out on freedomslips.com. That's right, the #1 listener-supported talk radio on the net. Since it is listener-funded radio and you like what you hear, please go to freedomslips.com and push the donate button on the site support page. It's on the left in the chat. Your donation is greatly appreciated and helps run this station. I just donated $10. I'm serious. Oh, if you hear it beeping in the background, don't worry, it's my UPS. It's crying out that I changed the battery over. I'd like to say hello to all of our new followers and listeners to Shiny Side Out. Thank you very much. We're doing this for you. And, if you like what you hear and you want to support the station, that's one thing. You can also go to our website, shinysideout.net, and push our donate button if you want us to continue doing this. We don't get any money. This is the only thing. I've got a book out. YouTube views. If you're watching it on YouTube, don't skip past the ads. I mean, really, 30 seconds. Please don't. We get a whole 0.2 of a cent every time you don't skip past it. So please, I beg you all, just do it.
I will buy my second condo in Switzerland tomorrow.
After 2 years, we now have $56. Yay! All right, so very important that you continue just to not skip, please. Okay, so we're glad you're all on board anyway. Even if you did hit skip, don't feel guilty. Just try not to do it next time. And you know what? Thanks so much for listening to us. We're halfway through show number 112, or as Meki says...
10, 2, and 100. 10, 2, and 100. Yes, because that's how you need to count. 2, 10, 100. 112. That's a number that is double 56, I think, right? Ooh, if my math isn't wrong. Ooh, that's crazy. Now,
and that's
we were talking
significant for what?
Who knows?
Not at all. Just his math brain is working away nicely.
There you go. What? Yes, I do use math a lot for my work, believe it or not. So if you're studying right now, you're in school, and you think you never use math for anything, not true.
Lies.
Not true. You do use your math. Anyway, you know what I really hate? When people can't add up things in their head. Like, you're going shopping, and in your head you already added up all the things you bought, but then the person keeps typing it in, and you go, no, you're wrong by 5 cents. Oh, type it in again. No, they're wrong by 5 cents. Excellent. Good. Now, the origin of Lent. Lent, the word in itself doesn't mean too much to me, I'll be honest. Now, according to Johannes Cossianus, who wrote in the 5th century, so a long time ago, howbeit you should know that as long as the primitive church retained its perfection unbroken, this observance of Lent did not exist. This is taken from the First Conference, Abbot Thiernas, chapter 30. Now, what does it mean? It means that the early church did not know Lent. It doesn't refer to in the Bible as Lent. I always thought that Lent was a celebration of Jesus' fasting in the desert. Remember, he went into the desert for 40 days? Well, apparently not. There's neither biblical nor historical record of Christ, the apostles, or the early church participating in the Lent season. Since there's no instruction to observe Lent in the Bible, where did it come from? Apparently, a 40-day abstinence period was anciently observed in honor of the pagan gods Osiris, Adonis, and Tammuz, all of which we have met. Now, this is from John Landseer, Sabine Researches, pages 111 and 112. Alexander Hislops, who wrote The Two Babylons, page 105 to 104, says this of the origin of Lent. The 40 days abstinence of Lent was directly borrowed from the worshippers of the Babylonian goddess. Such a Lent of 40 days in the spring of the year is still observed by the Yazidis, or pagan devil worshippers, let's just call them pagans, shall we, of Kurdistan, who have inherited it from the early masters, the Babylonians. Such a Lent of 40 days was held in spring by the pagan Mexicans. Such a Lent of 40 days was observed in Egypt. Right, so that's Lent for you. Okay?
I didn't know they had paganism in Mexico.
Oh, well, they had pagans everywhere, my friend.
Apparently.
Eggs, egg hunts, and the Easter Bunny. Now, this is my favorite section, I'll be honest with you. Eggs have always been associated with the Easter celebration. Okay, almost all the cultures of the modern world have a long tradition of coloring eggs in beautiful and different ways and hiding them. Okay, the origin of the Easter egg is based on the fertility lore of the Indo-European races. The egg to them was a symbol of spring, fertility, new beginnings, life. In Christian times, the egg had bestowed upon it a religious interpretation, becoming a symbol of the rock tomb out of which Christ emerged to the new life of his resurrection. Now, this is from Francis X. Weiser, Handbook of Christian Feast and Customs, page 233. This is a different example of exactly how pagan symbols and customs are Christianized. Around the Christian observance of Easter, folk customs have been collected. many of which have been handed down from the ancient ceremonial symbolism of European and Middle Eastern pagan spring festivals, for example eggs, have been very prominent as symbols of new life and resurrection. And that's from the Encyclopedia Britannica, believe it or not. Eggs were hung up in the Egyptian temples. Okay, that's from Egyptian Belief and Modern Thought by James Bonwick. Bunsen calls attention to the mundane egg, the emblem of generative life proceeding from the mouth of the great god of Egypt. The mystic egg of Babylon, hatching the Venus Ishtar, fell from heaven to the Euphrates. Dyed eggs were sacred Easter offerings in Egypt, as they are still in China and Europe. Easter, or spring, was the season of birth, terrestrial and celestial. Now, I don't know if you noticed, but the Monkey King was also born out of a celestial egg. Okay? Something that fell from the heavens and released the monkey god. A fascinating mythology. I might have a show on that. What do you think, Dave? We might actually do that.
I think so.
It naturally progressed that the egg, representing spring and fertility, would be merged into an already pagan springtime festival. Connecting the symbol to Christ's resurrection in the spring required much creativity and human reasoning. 2 additional quotes from Francis Weiser about the origin of the Easter Bunny. Now, this is the German pace that I think Dave
Me.
referred to.
Hi,
Hello,
it's Jeff.
Dave's the
Who
other guy,
cares?
not Jeff. In Germany and Austria, little nests containing eggs, pastry, and candy are placed in hidden spots. And the children believe that the Easter Bunny, so popular in this country too, had laid the eggs and brought the candy. And the Easter Bunny had its origin in pre-Christian fertility lore. The Easter Bunny has never had religious symbolism bestowed on its festive usage. However, the bunny has acquired a cherished role in the celebration of Easter as the legendary producer of Easter eggs for children in many countries. Now, that is true. I grew up in Germany, and the Easter Bunny, the Osterhase, as it were, and the eggs, and in fact, we hard-boil the eggs, and then we paint them, and sometimes we blow out the egg. So we have a raw egg. We put one hole at each end, and we blow out the egg. Yeah, you can still use the egg, by the way, to make scrambled egg or whatever. And then we would paint those eggs as well. And now the Easter
Mickey,
Bunny.
I just wanted to interrupt just for a sec there, right? So the origin of it being Easter was that there wasn't a Christmas
Yes.
where Santa knew who was good and bad, and it was in fact the Easter Bunny, wasn't it? That had
Yes, that's right.
that and knew which boys and girls were good or bad and who wouldn't get gifts, because it wasn't just eggs that were going to German children, it was gifts. They brought gifts as well.
You're correct. In fact, I do remember my tradition is the eggs were hidden as well, so there was an egg hunt, Easter egg hunt, but gifts were hidden as well that you had to find. That's something my uncle would do every year. So yes, you're correct. That's a very true statement, sir. Now, the Easter Bunny is not a true Christian symbol, according to John Bradner, who wrote Symbols of Church, Seasons and Days. Although adopted in a number of Christian cultures, the Easter Bunny has never received any specific Christian interpretation, which is from the Encyclopedia of Religion, page 558. The hare, the symbol of fertility in ancient Egypt, a symbol that was kept late in Europe, its place has been taken by the Easter rabbit. Once again, Encyclopedia Britannica. There's nothing Christian about any of these symbols. That's true. The true history of these fertility symbols, rabbits and eggs, is completely unknown to all unsuspecting children. Oh, bad adults. That's true. Now, the egg and the hare, which is the rabbit, the bunny, were symbols of Ostara, representing fertility and new life in the season of spring. Since ancient times, many cultures have associated eggs with the universe as well, and the never-ending circle of life. They have been dyed, decorated, and painted by the Romans, Gauls, Persians, and the Chinese. So every culture paints eggs, decorates them. They were used in ancient spring festivals to represent the rebirth of life. Dyed eggs have also formed part of the rituals of the Babylonian mystery religions, and in Egypt, they were hung in temples as symbol of regenerative life. As Christianity called, as we said, the eggs began to symbolize the rebirth of man rather than nature. So the rebirth of Christ. Then it also became to symbolize his tomb. and you can stretch it further. I mean, you need a lot of creativity to actually make it stick, I guess. Now, this is interesting. I know, all right. Now, apparently, there's a Polish folktale that tells of the Virgin Mary giving eggs to soldiers at the cross while she pleaded with them to be merciful. As her tears dropped, they spattered droplets on the eggs, mottling them with a myriad of colors. I think that's a stretch. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. That's just a little bit too much for me. Christians of the Near East use the egg to symbolize the tomb from which Jesus broke forth. Again, bit of a stretch, okay? But fair enough. If you need to make it stick and need to somehow amalgamate the pagan festival into the Christian tradition, I guess that's the way you do it.
Any old how.
Any old how, right? They were often colored red to represent the blood of Christ. The Eastern tradition of rolling eggs is said to symbolize the rolling away of the rock from Jesus' tomb. Now, again, look, as we said, it took a lot of creativity to actually amalgamate or to integrate the pagan Easter festivals into Christianity.
I would have liked to have been at the table where they were meeting, maybe at the Vatican, deciding what it was and how they were going to adopt all of these things. I think it would have been interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, the bunny as an Easter symbol seems to have its origin in Germany, as we said, and it was first mentioned in German writings in the 1500s, so some time ago. In many parts of Germany, the people believe the Easter bunny laid the eggs on Holy Thursday and multicolored eggs the night before Easter Sunday. That's right, it's a very talented hare, that one. That's where the first edible Easter bunnies were made. Sorry, that's rather why the... that's where the first edible Easter bunnies were made from pastry and sugar. When German settlers came to Pennsylvania, Dutch country, in the 1700s, they brought the custom with them. So that's for you Americans out there. The children believed that if they were good, again, right, this is what Dave mentioned, the Osterhase, which is really a bit of a Swabian, Easter hare, would lay a nest of colored eggs if the children were good. The Easter basket origins from the ancient Catholic custom of taking the food for Easter dinner to Mass to be blessed. This too is mirrored by the even more ancient ritual of bringing the first crops and seedlings to the temple to ensure a good growing season. You know, the blessing of the crops is not something that's a strange thing to anyone, I think. Mm-hmm. And this practice, combined with the rabbit's nest of the Pennsylvania Dutch, has evolved in the brightly colored containers filled with sweets, toys, and the like left for children on Easter morning by the Easter Bunny. Yes, and has also, spawned $1 billion industry, which is, fantastic. I'm sure Hallmark has got Easter cards. These are sometimes called the white-robed apostles of hope, because they were reportedly found growing in the Garden of Gethsemane, where Jesus' sweat fell to the ground in his final hours. These same flowers have been long revered by pagans of many lands as fertility symbols. You can see the stretch there. Jesus was sweating, and wherever he sweats in the Garden of Gethsemane, sorry, pardon me, these flowers grew. Again, guys, it's a stretch, but I accept it. Hot cross buns. At the feast of Eostre, the Saxon fertility goddess, an ox was sacrificed. What will you say? So what, right? What has to do with hot cross bun? Now, the oxen's horn became a symbol for the feast. They were carved into the ritual bread. Thus originated hot cross buns. The word buns is derived from the Saxon word bone, which means sacred ox. Later, yes, the symbol of a symmetrical cross was used to decorate the buns. The cross represented the moon, the heavenly body associated with the goddess, and its 4 quarters. Still later, the cross was symbolic of the cross of the crucifixion.
Wow.
We'll actually hear something else on that to do with the god of Excuse me, I've got a frog in my throat, maybe a bunny. And we will hear about the god Tammuz and Easter bunnies, Easter buns, I should say. Now, this one I really like a lot. In Sweden, Wales, the children dress up like witches and put Easter greetings into mailboxes of their friends. Firecrackers are set off to scare away real witches. That's probably the strangest Easter tradition I've heard of, to be honest with you.
Firecrackers and giving your friends gifts. Mickey, I was going to tell you, I had to bring this up today because it's the only time I can do it. We went to our local shop, and they're more South American chocolate company, It's not where I live now. It's down in Lewisham, and they make all their own chocolate, and they have all of the casts. And Easter is certainly a big time for them. But when I thought, silly me, thinking that I'm going to be exposed to chocolate eggs and chocolate bunnies as traditionally found in all of the supermarkets or all of the large chain stores, or how we're fed this time of year. What was uncanny about it, and it's still a laughing point in our family, is that they had the Easter chicken, a chocolate chicken, because in South America they couldn't understand how a bunny could lay an egg, because that makes no sense whatsoever, right?
I gotta agree with that though.
Exactly, and so they didn't go along with this. This is the whole point of what Mecky's been talking about. Is it's a bit of a stretch. Well, they went, oh, it's too much of a stretch to think a bunny could lay eggs because it's not. It's a mammal. Right, so, let's just make it a chicken, because chickens lay eggs, don't they? Yeah. So there's chickens sitting in baskets surrounded by eggs, and they're chocolate. It's the Easter chicken. And
the Easter chicken. It's Myrtle, the Easter chicken.
I have chickens, and they make an awful sound when they're laying eggs, because I think in chicken it just says, this egg is huge. So, and that's what I found really extraordinary, was that there's all these different views, and now that we've delved into this to this extent, what? It comes from so many places, and it goes back a long way. And when Mecky says that there isn't a connection to the Bible, to the New Testament, what? Mm-hmm. And then you find all these references which are telling an older story. As well, and I think that says so much about.
In fact,
go ahead.
No. Look, there's actually going to be it's going to be more interesting. It's going to get a lot weirder. In fact, it's going to get a lot weirder.
Are you
to
ready?
be honest with you. Now, we've just spoken about the Easter buns, right? The hot cross buns. Yeah, there's another story which we come to in a little while, but let's talk about the goddess Ostara and the Easter bunny, and why a chicken or why a bunny should lay eggs. Now, the goddess Ostara and the Easter bunny. This is a true myth. Feeling guilty about arriving late one spring, the goddess Ostara, remembering she's the goddess of spring, brings life, saved the life of a poor bird whose wings had been frozen by the snow. Okay, she made him her pet, the bird that is, or in some versions, that bird became her lover. Filled with compassion for him, since he could no longer fly. Remember, because he had his wings frozen off, right? Yeah. Ostara turned him into a snow hare and gave him the gift of being able to run with incredible speed so he could protect himself from hunters. In remembrance of his earlier form as a bird, she also gave him the ability to lay eggs in all the colors of the rainbow, but only on one day out of each year. Eventually, the hare managed to anger the goddess Ostara, and she cast him into the skies, where he would remain as the constellation Lepus, which means the hare, forever positioned under the feet of the constellation Orion, which is the hunter. He was allowed to return to Earth once a year, but only to give away his eggs to the children, attending the Ostara festivals that were held each spring. Thus, the tradition of the Easter bunny began. Right? That totally gets weirder. The hare was sacred in many ancient traditions and was associated with the moon goddess and the various deities of the hunt. In ancient times, eating the hare was prohibited except at Beltane. Okay, that's one of the high feast days of the pagans. And the festival of Ostara, when a ritual hare hunt would take place. In many cultures, rabbits, like eggs, were considered to be potent remedies for fertility problems. The ancient philosopher-physician Pliny the Elder prescribed rabbit meat as a cure for female sterility, and in some cultures the genitals of a hare were carried to avert barrenness, as some kind of token or talisman, I would say. Given their mad leaping and boxing displays during mating season, as well as their ability to produce up to 42 offspring each spring, it is understandable that they came to represent lust, sexuality, and excess in general. Now, this is interesting, guys. Medieval Christians considered the hare to be an evil omen, believing that witches changed into rabbits in order to suck the cows dry. I'm sorry. It was claimed that the witch could only be killed by a silver crucifix or a bullet when she appeared as a hare. In later Christian tradition, the white hare, when depicted at the Virgin Mary's feet, represents triumph over lust or the flesh. The rabbit's vigilance and speed came to represent the need to flee from sin and temptation, and a reminder of the swift passage of life. Now, again, guys, this is when we're trying to as Christians, this is where the stretch comes in. You're trying to amalgamate something into your belief system that previously you thought was quite evil. And finally, there is a sweet Christian legend about a young rabbit who for 3 days waited anxiously for his friend Jesus to return to the Garden of Gethsemane, not knowing what had become of him. And I had no idea that this legend existed. Early on Easter morning, Jesus returned to his favorite garden and was welcomed by the little rabbit. That evening, when the disciples came into the garden to pray, still unaware of the resurrection, they found a clump of beautiful larkspurs, each blossom bearing the image of a rabbit in its center as a remembrance of the little creature's hope and faith. This, in my mind, is the biggest stretch of all. Okay? Right there. I'm sorry, I don't care what you say. This is maybe even a little too much for the shiny side out.
Okay. We're not polarizing the audience. You know that, Mackie. We're not doing that, right? What we're doing is just bringing you all the info that we could find.
Look, absolutely. Okay, now, this is another take on Easter here. We've got Nimrod, Semiramis, and Easter. And I find this amusing. And if I find it amusing, you can imagine what that means. In ancient times, there was a man named Nimrod, and he was the grandson of one of Noah's sons, who was named Ham. You might have heard of Nimrod, the great hunter, in the Bible. You probably have. Mm-hmm. Now, Ham had a son named Cush, who married a woman named Semiramis. Cush and Semiramis then had a son, and they named him Nimrod. After the death of his father, Nimrod married his own mother and became a powerful king, because that's what you used to do in those days. Yes. The Bible tells us of this man, Nimrod, in Genesis 10:8 to 10:10, as follows. And Cush begat Nimrod. He began to be a mighty one in the earth. He was a mighty hunter before the Lord. Wherefore it is said, even as Nimrod the mighty hunter before the Lord. And the beginning of his kingdom was Babel, and Erech, and Akkad, and Calneh, in the land of Shinar. Okay, that's directly from the Bible. And Nimrod became a god-man to the people, and Semiramis, his wife and mother, that's something you should never say, became the powerful queen of ancient Babylon. Nimrod was eventually killed by an enemy, and his body was cut in pieces and sent to various parts of his kingdom. Not an unusual practice. Semiramis had all of the parts gathered, except for one part that could not be found. That missing part was his reproductive organ. That's very similar to some ancient Egyptian stories, if you recall, Dave. Also very similar to the story of Ganesha, the elephant god.
Yes.
Anyway, so again, it's fascinating stuff. So Semiramis claimed that Nimrod could not come back to life without it, the reproductive organ that is, and told the people of Babylon that Nimrod had ascended to the sun and was now to be called Baal, the sun god. Queen Semiramis also proclaimed that Baal would be present on earth in the form of a flame, whether candle or lamp, when used in worship. Semiramis was creating a mystery religion, and with she set herself up as a goddess, so the story goes. Semiramis claimed that she was immaculately conceived. She taught that the moon was a goddess that went through a 28-day cycle. She further claimed that she came down from the moon in a giant moon egg that fell into the Euphrates River. Once again, that notion that we're getting visitors from space in eggs.
Yes.
You have to read between the lines, guys, right? Now, this was to have happened at the time of the first full moon after the spring equinox. That's when the egg came down, that is. Semiramis became known as Ishtar, which is pronounced Easter, and her moon egg became known as Ishtar's egg. Ishtar soon became pregnant and claimed that it was the rays of the sun god Baal that caused her to conceive. The son that she brought forth was named Tammuz. Tammuz. Tammuz was noted to be especially fond of rabbits. Now, this is going to be very interesting. And they became sacred in ancient religion, because Tammuz was believed to be the son of the sun god Baal. Tammuz, like his supposed father, became a hunter. The day came when Tammuz was killed by a wild pig. Queen Ishtar told the people that Tammuz was now ascended to his father Baal, and that the two of them would be with the worshippers in the sacred candle or lamp flame as Father, Son, and Spirit. Sound familiar? Ishtar, who was now worshipped as the mother of God and Queen of Heaven, continued to build her mystery religion. The queen told the worshippers that that when Tammuz was killed by the wild pig, some of his blood fell on the stump of an evergreen tree, and the stump grew into a full new tree overnight. That made the evergreen tree sacred by the blood of Tammuz. Again, evergreen is associated with Christmas celebrations. She also proclaimed a 40-day period of time of sorrow each year prior to the anniversary of the death of Tammuz. During this time, no meat was to be eaten. Does that sound like Lent to you? Worshippers were to meditate upon the sacred mysteries of Baal and Tammuz, and to make the sign of the T in front of the hearts as they worshipped.
Wow.
Now, again, what does a T look like? It looks like a T.
Cross.
That's what it looks like. They also ate sacred cakes. And this is where the bun's here, Dave. This is the bun story. They also ate sacred cakes with the marking of a T or cross on the top. Every year on the first Sunday after the first full moon after the spring equinox, the celebration was held. It was Ishtar's Sunday and was celebrated with rabbit and eggs. Ishtar also proclaimed that because Tammuz was killed by a pig, that a pig must be eaten on that Sunday. That's where you have got your Easter ham.
Easter ham. I'm
Right?
going to bring that back.
I am
I'm
too.
going to own that because that sounds so delicious.
So we have several, origin stories for the Easter bun, the hot cross bun, which personally I find fascinating. Again, you can make up your own mind as to which one you prefer, to follow or to believe. Now, the one thing though that remains, I think, talking about Easter, is why does it always change? It's never on the same day. It's a movable feast, as we've learned. Now, it usually falls between March 22nd and April 25th, right? Anywhere there. And why do the Eastern Orthodox churches, celebrate Easter on a different day to the Western churches, right? Now, there's a short answer. Let's start with the short answer. At the heart of the matter lies a very simple explanation. The early church fathers wished to keep the observance of Easter in correlation to the Jewish Passover festival, as we've already learned. Because the death, burial, and resurrection of Jesus Christ happened after the Passover, they wanted Easter to always be celebrated subsequent to the Passover. And since the Jewish holiday calendar is based on solar and lunar cycles, very important, each feast day is movable, with dates shifting from year to year. Now, from here the explanation gets a little more complicated. Now, but let's stay with the short story for a little bit longer before I go to the long answer. There's another paragraph I want to share with you guys before I go there. Easter always falls on the first Sunday following the full moon, and after March 21. If the full moon falls on a Sunday, then Easter is the next Sunday. All right, that's just a tradition. The Easter season begins on Easter Day and lasts 50 days, ending on Pentecost. Okay, so that's just a quick aside. Now the long answer. I'll give you the long answer now. Right, Dave? Are we ready for the long answer?
I'm ready. Let's do it. I think the listeners are ready.
Perfect. Now, today in Western Christianity, Easter is always celebrated on the Sunday immediately following the Paschal full moon date of the year. Now, note, Easter is always celebrated on the Sunday immediately following the first full moon after the vernal spring equinox. Okay, vernal meaning spring. This statement was true prior to 325 AD. However, over the course of history, beginning in 325 AD, with the much famed Council of Nicaea, which I've mentioned many times, the Western Church decided to establish a more standardized system for determining the date of Easter. In actuality, the date of the Paschal full moon is determined from historical tables and has no correspondence to lunar events. As astronomers were able to approximate the dates of all the full moons in future years, the Western Christian Church used these calculations to establish a table of ecclesiastical full moon dates. These dates would determine the holy days on the ecclesiastical calendar. Though modified slightly from its original form, by 1583, the table for determining the ecclesiastical full moon dates was permanently established and has been used ever since to determine the date of Easter. Thus, according to the ecclesiastical tables, the paschal full moon is the first ecclesiastical full moon date after March 20th, which happened to be the vernal equinox, spring equinox, date in 325 AD. So, in Western Christianity, again important, Easter is always celebrated on the Sunday immediately following the paschal full moon. The paschal full moon can vary as much as 2 days from the date of the actual full moon, with dates ranging from March 21 to April 18. As a result, Easter dates can range from March 22 through to April 25 in Western Christianity. Whoa, that was too much. Now we come to Eastern dates, right? Historically, Western churches used the Gregorian calendar to calculate the date of Easter, and Eastern Orthodox churches used the Julian calendar. This is partly why the dates were seldom the same. Easter and its related holidays do not fall on a fixed date in either the Gregorian or Julian calendars, making them movable holidays. The dates instead are based on a lunar calendar very similar to the Hebrew calendar. While some Eastern Orthodox churches not only maintain the date of Easter based on the Julian calendar, which was in use during the First Ecumenical Council of Nicaea in 325, they also use the actual astronomical full moon and the actual vernal, say spring equinox, as observed along the meridian of Jerusalem. This complicates the matter, really, due to the inaccuracy of the Julian calendar and the 13 days that have accrued since AD 325. I'll explain that. This means in order to stay in line with the originally established vernal equinox of 325 AD, Orthodox Easter cannot be celebrated before April 3, which is the present-day Gregorian calendar, which was March 21 in AD 325. Additionally, as if we haven't got enough, in keeping with the rule established by the First Ecumenical Council of Nicaea, the Eastern Orthodox Church adhered to the tradition that Easter must always fall after the Jewish Passover, since the resurrection of Christ happened after the celebration of Passover. Eventually, finally, the Orthodox Church came up with an alternative to calculating Easter based on the Gregorian calendar and Passover and developed a 19-year cycle as opposed to the Western Church 84-year cycle. Since the days of early church history, determining the precise date of Easter has been a matter for continued argument. For one, the followers of Christ neglected to record the exact date of Jesus' resurrection. And from then, the matter grew only more complex. Now, the last word. Let's Dave.
Yeah.
Do you want to give our friends the last word?
Yeah, I'd love to. Thanks, Mickey. A round of applause to Mickey for everyone. Oh, that's just awesome. Awesome work on this. So, this is the last word. So, does it matter why we celebrate Easter or what the origins are? It's a good question. Well, if you're a devout Christian, then yes, it matters. After all, who wants to partake in pagan holidays, if you're a Christian, like Christmas, Halloween, Carnival in Germany, etc.? And that's a good point. He raised a good point there. If you are not then, you are like Dave. Also, not like them. If you're not like them, and you are like Dave and I, sorry, that's me, Becky and I just like to celebrate with your family, which is what we do. Be it to welcome spring, commemorate the resurrection of some deity, because we have a lot to choose from today. Choose whatever you like. If you're not religious, choose one of the Sumerian ones. Says I'm going with Sumerian, or just remembering your good fortune, which is that's really an Eastern tradition. Really, most of us have no idea why these things are the way they are, or what the deeper meaning is that adheres to most things we do. We don't know. They're, as you mentioned before, Mickey, hallmark holidays.
That's right.
Yeah. So these are today. Most of the meaning is lost, and no one will ever find out. But listen to this show, enjoy it for what it is, You know, it's a collection of info. You know, that's why you should listen to us, because we bring this to you. You know?
Yeah, that's right.
And do you know what? I still think that I don't know if there's any more to bring up, because
I think
no, but I mean on Easter, yeah, because if it's all of those things, you know, I might go. I'm going to choose maybe 50% South American. I want an Easter chicken. I want to have a roast chicken and a roast ham. That sounds great. You know. And melted chocolate Easter eggs over the top. I'm kidding. And, you know, maybe mix it up. Oh, mix it up next year. The kids will be disappointed, I'll tell you that. Sorry, kids, there's no Easter eggs this year. No, it's an Easter ham.
You know what I love though, Dave?
What's
I love the explanations as to why things are. I mean, the Easter bunny is laying eggs because it was actually a bird. Then someone changed the bird into a bunny, which is unique. This is brilliant, right? And what I also love is how Christianity just absorb these traditions, right?
Yeah.
Which is fair enough too, right? Because again, you know, if you're a new kid on the block, and you know you're dealing with people that have celebrated the same thing for hundreds, if not thousands of years, and you say, "Oh, you can't do this anymore," they go, "Yeah, right. You can find your own religion somewhere else." You need to I guess become more open, and I think the early Christians, right? Quite contrary to what we see today, to some extent, we're quite open to incorporate these festivals into their own tradition and make it. No, some are a stretch, right? Especially the Polish. I'm sorry, I shouldn't laugh. I think it's hilarious.
We're laughing because it's so different from us. Yeah.
It is. It's also funny that people are trying so hard to make something fit. I'm reminded of Homer. That is doing a puzzle. Like, so Homer is sitting at a table, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he's trying to do a puzzle, and he says, "Fit, damn you, fit!" And he bashes the puzzle piece, which obviously does not, fit where he wants to put it.
Yeah?
But he does bash it in, right? Eventually, it's bashed in there, and it's yes, well done, Homer. And it feels a bit like that, right? I mean, some of these things are forced. Other things seem more natural, right?
Mm-hmm.
And other things yet have evolved over time, like Christmas, the way we look at Christmas, right? And what we think Christmas is, including our image of Santa Claus, right? And what happens to Christmas tree. All of these things, the culmination of which we enjoy today, is an evolution over time. 100 years ago, 200 years ago, quite different, guys. Quite different. Only now, in the fullness of time, do we have the total image of of Christmas and in fact Easter. And who knows, Dave? Seriously, I mean, what's going to happen in 100 years' time, right? If we live that long, as people, that is. What changes will come to Easter and Christmas and other festivals? And now that we have so many different cultures living together in Australia, we've got Indians and Chinese, we've got Africans, we still have Anglo-Saxons and so forth, all living together, melting into each other, right?
Yeah, so what we've seen, and Mickey, you're drawing a good trend there. I love it. So if you look at how some religions adopted others' holidays so they could, diversify a little and get a greater audience, thinking about this melting pot of different cultures that we live in, we may be adopting something from someone else. They may be getting ours. We may see the joining of some of these holidays like this and becoming genericized, like Christmas, like Easter, the way we know them today. Having heard the origin of it, I didn't know it. I had no clue. I knew that the bunny's origin from Germany, and that it was Santa Claus in the rest of the world. But I like that. There was also something interesting in the notes there today about the moon, the egg from the moon, about extraterrestrial visitation, because I'm an ancient astronaut theorist, yeah? So I like that in there. But you know what? Japan, Santa lives on the moon.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
The gift giver.
That's right. And so these, as Shimeki says, and I agree with, these are interwoven. The myths the stories, the origins of a lot of the stuff that we bring you are all interwoven together. They describe very, very similar things. Now, I'm going to say this one more time. If George Orwell's 1984, the book, yeah, if I asked you to go and research it, would you, I don't know, run down the store and buy one of those little synopsises, someone else's work? Would you watch the Hollywood version, which may, pardon the word, but bastardized the original for just enough changes so they didn't have to pay as many royalties for the film, as we've seen so many times with Hollywood films, like what's the one with the aliens?
Which one?
The aliens come. War of the Worlds.
War of the Worlds.
So the original radio play to then the 70s musical version on album, which is a good transition. It still had a lot of the story, yeah. But then to go to the Hollywood, the early 40s or 50s version, and then up to the 2000s version, which was the Tom Cruise epic. And each one of those changed. So if I asked you, this is my segue, if I asked you, this is where I'm going with it, to research what it meant, what did War of the Worlds mean, which version are you going to go to? Always, and I respect everyone who does this, go to the original.
Yes.
Go to the original text. So this is the line of questioning is the Sumerian goddess Inanna, or Ishtar, was hung naked on a stake and was subsequently resurrected and ascended from the underworld.
Mm-hmm.
Sumerians, people. Once again, first written, biggest evolution between farming and full society. And they talk about the interventionism by aliens. So I like that their stories are so much older than everyone else's. And when you think about going to the source, go to that source. You know, and find out more.
I agree with you.
it.
Always go to the primary evidence. The primary, Dave, you're 100% correct. You should always, in fact, experience has shown us that is the best way to do it.
Yes, it has. Short answer, man. Yeah. So it's only going to help you to do that. And it looks like we lost Mickey for a sec. But look, the finding out that they had to force fit a lot of these different ideals and descriptions into, one from another. I thought maybe pagan. I thought the pagan thing would be it. I really did. I thought we'd be staring down the barrel of there being just this pagan idea of Easter, but then to find out that it wasn't in the Bible is something completely different. So, ask anyone on the street, do a pop box, as it's said in the industry, and ask your friend, what do you think Easter stands for? And you can correct them now. Whatever their description is, it isn't that. And I think we learned a whole bunch here today. I'm surprised that Meki's dropped off, to be honest. We've had a great connection all show, and then suddenly, whoosh, that's it. No more Meki. We got 3 words out of him, and then he's gone. Look, just while we're at the end of the show, I think we have 7 whole minutes left. I'd love for everyone to dip into their smart devices store. I've personally made the application, so you can, if you have a smart device like most people do these days, jump in and pop it onto your device. You can communicate with us eventually. At the moment, it's got chat room link. You can listen to us live wherever you are on your smart device. You can see all our feeds, and you could share those also on Facebook and their YouTube channels, and it's got access to all our stuff. It's the same as the website, except that it doesn't have all of the show notes at the moment, and I am working on that. But I'd like to see the uptake of the application as much as possible to gauge maybe some success over it. Give me some feedback. I'm the primary contact to it as well. So if you don't know what to look for Shiny Side Out on your store, on your smartphone store. I wanted to say that next week, I think it is next week. I'm just going to check the dates. Next week, I believe that we have Michael Tillinger along on the show. I don't know where he is in the world. He may still be in South Africa. I'm not sure. Hope his connection's good enough or his phone line's good enough for the show duration. And I look forward to hearing from him about all of his research. And that's going to be an exciting show. We have some other guests coming up, which I can't announce yet, but I've been working hard to try and bring you people who are in the front of their field, maybe a little outside the box in their research, and we're trying to bring you every aspect of this genre that we can. If you're listening to us and you are a radio host at another network and you just think this is interesting stuff, you can get in contact with us. Please do that. We'd love to hear from you. So if you're listening out there in the wide world, send me an email. You can go to shinysideout.net, and there's a contact us page, and you can either just fill it in, or I'll just tell you right now, it's dave@shinysideout.net, or it's Mecky in likewise, yeah. So you should enjoy that. If you enjoy the YouTube stream while the show's on, still keep the chat window open. That'd be awesome. Also, there's a chat window in the YouTube stream, but we don't get to that until after the show's finished. It's a bit hard to have so many things on at once on our consoles. But also, yes, if anyone has any topics that you'd like us to discuss, then please, by all means, contact us and let us know. If you know someone who you think should be on the show, who we should interview, if you have an idea around that as well, please do not hesitate in contacting us. I have to say, there's a lot of topics. We're going to put some stuff together to do with fracking. It's called coal seam gas, CSG now. I think they wanted to try and get the word fracking away from it. The CSGs and how bad they are, and who's not being told what, and all the stuff around the world who's inadvertently affected by it in a negative sense. We want to bring something there as well. RD47, I haven't seen you in the chat room before. Welcome aboard, and thanks so much that you've given us a whole bunch to think about too. A lot of really good information and chats going on. Noodles 6015 as well. Welcome, Aries 23. Sindolo as usual. Thank you, Sindolo. And there's a whole bunch of others. I mean, the chat room's going crazy. I shouldn't say it's crazy. There's a lot of discussion going on in the chat room. And thanks to you, thanks to all of those people. It does sound like a farewell, but it isn't. We're going to catch up with you next week. And hopefully we have Michael Tillinger on board. I've been having a little trouble trying to confirm a lot of people because of the time of our show. It's hard for the US experts that we'd like to bring in. So from time to time we might do a pre-recorded session with them. Don't think we're dirty that it's not live, but we try to bring you to you as though it is live. Jose was fantastic last week in being able to do it I think Pacific people have an easier time because it's 11 till 1 a.m. and that's pretty tough. So I'd like to once again put a thank you out to everyone. Listen to other hosts. If you only stumble upon our show for some reason, go to freedomslips.com and enjoy all the other host shows and all the information that people bring. Like Nighthawk says in the break, this is quite literally the best and most viewed station, listener-funded station. That's right, the number one listener-supported talk radio on the net. So, honestly, like I said, I donated in the last break. You should do too. And write a little comment there saying, love the Shiny Side Out show, or get in contact with us at the same time. The music's just about to start. And you feel free also to flick me some YouTube links. We're in Facebook, so go to Facebook.com/Shiny Side Out, and friend us. I'll say yes, and you can post. I'd love to. I want interaction with people. And there's the music. So we'll see you next week for another Shiny Side Out with Dave and Meki. Enjoy yourselves in the meantime. Keep in contact. Bye now.